Has anyone ever asked you what you had for breakfast, for instance, and you weren't able to answer it really quickly? Well, you're going to be like me because um, I am one of those people who I don't think about what I eat. Um, I just eat sometimes really quickly and move on to the next thing. Sometimes I even eat while standing, which is not ideal, but that's what I do. And if you're one of those people like me, then I would say that you eat mindlessly or that you don't practice mindful eating, which is unfortunate because I remember one of the videos that I did where I was talking about the reason why people regain the weight after they've lost the weight. And one of the reasons was not eating mindfully or mindless eating. And what that means, I'm sorry, this is another faceless video. And what that means is that you're not thinking about what you're eating. You're not conscious of what you're consuming. You're just eating without thinking. And that's a very easy way to gain weight or to regain weight that you've lost. So that's what we're going to talk about today is mindless eating or mindful eating, which is basically being conscious of the food that you're eating, being aware of why you're eating that food, being aware of what food you're eating, how nutritious it is, how are you eating it, and then how much of it you're eating. So that's what we're going to talk about today is mindless eating. By the way, today is also a moment of shame, really, because I also talk about how food prepping helps you save money and reduce or eliminate wastage. And today is a typical example. I was about to go shopping for my weekly grocery shopping. And when I went to look, I found that most of the vegetables I bought the week before had not been used. And here we are. Most of them have gone off. So, this is another reason why food prepping is important because it saves you time, prevents wastage, and also will save you money. So as you can see, this is spinach. I think the spinach is still in good condition, which is fine. I'm going to be honest, I already threw one bag away. I think that might have been from the week before. So don't do that. We have to practice what we preach. And look at this pepper, this green pepper. Half of it is already gone. So that's what not to do. And my leeks, again, they don't look as fresh as they did last week. And of course, these are the collard greens, and these are pretty, it's unfortunate, really. So this is what not to do. This is another reason why you should meal prep in advance. I also have some asparagus, which was once green, but now it's not green anymore, which is sad. But anyway, I'm going to see if I can salvage as much as I can. So going back to mindless eating or mindful eating, um, why do why are you eating is a question we have to ask ourselves. Why are we eating that food? Are we truly hungry? Are we thirsty? Is it because of something we saw on the TV? Maybe there's a commercial and it's showing pizza, and all of a sudden you want to eat some pizza. Is it because you're bored, which happens a lot? What's the reason? Is it because maybe the kids are eating something that you like, and so you want to join in the eating process? So that's a question we have to ask ourselves, and that's what we have to be conscious about: is why are we eating? The second thing we have to be conscious about is what are we eating? Because when we're conscious of our eating habits, that's when we think about what we're eating. Is it nutritious? Is it high in fiber? Are they lean proteins that you're eating, or are they just junk? Like burgers or like pizza, like I just mentioned. So, what are you eating? Is it what you should be eating? That's a question we have to ask ourselves when we decide to eat something. I know it sounds almost like there's a long process about, there's a long process that you have to go through before you eat. But when you think about it, it might seem a long process, but once you get it all sorted out, it might be something that happens automatically before you eat. So I'm going to throw this away. And so that's one thing that we have to consider. So I'm going to make this to be my trash. Um, and mindless eating is also the reason why I did not realize I was lactose intolerant for a very long time, and that I was allergic to oats and wheat until my doctor ordered a test by mistake. And that's how I found out that I was allergic and intolerant to all these things. So that's what happens when you eat mindlessly. You're not aware of how your body is responding to the food. You're not aware of maybe the fact that you were a little itchy when you had that food. So those are the reasons why we should try and eat mindfully. Okay, so coming back, so that's what you're eating. The other thing we have to think about is, how are we eating the food? Are you one of those people who eat really quickly? I am. Um, Having worked in retail pharmacy, anyone who has done that job will tell you that I mean, to get a break is almost impossible. Sorry, I'm going to get a chopping board so I can get on with this. So they'll tell you that eating can be a problem because sometimes you don't even get a break. And even if you do get a break from the front store, where maybe the front is closed, you find that behind the scenes, you have to continue to work to make sure that you clear backlogs before lunch is over. So this is my chopping board. So it's, are you eating, are you as one of those people who eat really quickly? I'm one of those people. Um, the other thing to think about also is, are you chewing your food properly? You know, it takes about 20 minutes for your brain to register that you're full. So when you eat really quickly, and you chew really quickly, or you don't chew your food properly before you swallow, you will end up eating more than you need to, because you're eating really quickly. If you finish all your food before your brain records that you're full, what will happen is you would have continued to eat um, when you should have stopped eating. And by the time you realize, then you've already eaten more than you should, if that makes sense. So those are what would happen if you um, don't chew slowly and if you eat really quickly. So that's, how are you eating it? Are you drinking your calories? You know, I'm not a fan of shakes. Excuse me, I'm not a fan of shakes or smoothie, to be honest. I believe in eating my calories as opposed to um, drinking my calories. So sometimes, you know, that could really uh, trip you off, because we underestimate how many calories, for instance, is in a smoothie. If you're a smoothie person, that's fine. Just make sure that you're conscious of how much you're consuming through your smoothie. And the last part is really, how much are you eating? Now, these four sections are just made up by me from my understanding. I don't want this session to be technical in any way. I just want it to be straightforward and simple to understand. So the last part of that is, how much are you eating? You know, the idea is just to eat in small portions. You know, don't use a large plate. Use a small plate. Eat slowly, chew slowly, think about what you're eating, and you can almost already see that if you do that, you're going to end up eating less than you would have eaten if you had not thought about your food, not thought about what was in the food, eaten quickly, chewed your food really quickly. So you can see that just practicing those four steps might just be enough for you to either lose weight or maintain your weight. So that's that. By the way, my name is IJ, and this is Wellness with IJ. I hope you have subscribed to the channel. If you haven't, I hope that by the end of this session today that you will subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up and make a comment. An emoji works fine. So going back to the 4 different parts of mindful eating. So what do we do about this? First of all, um, in terms of why we're eating, when you go to the fridge to reach out for that food, stop for a moment. Just take a deep breath and ask yourself, am I hungry or am I just bored? Take a deep breath before you reach out for that food. Make sure that the food that you have in your house is healthy by itself, so that even if you fail to think about the food and you grab it before you think about it, at least the chances are that the food is healthy. So that could be a way that you could combat um, um, while you're eating. Drink some water is another way, because if you're thirsty and you're not hungry, because sometimes um, we think we're hungry, in actual sense we're just thirsty. And if you drink and just think about what you're doing, be conscious of the fact that you're drinking, maybe you're drinking water. And another thing that I found is that when you're hungry, or if you think you're hungry, if you actually drink a Diet Coke or a diet drink, that gives you time to figure out whether or not you're hungry and maybe what you could eat. You can quite easily buy 1 hour by doing that. So that's why you're eating. That's how you can begin to think about that. The next one is what you're eating. Again, what you're eating can be solved by making sure that your food or the food that you have in the house, that they're healthy and that you food prepped, so that if you reach in your fridge, the chances are that um, you'll grab something that is healthy, and you're not going to fall prey to eating something that is not good for you. And that's one way of doing what you're eating. And also, for instance, in a day, if you have an idea as to how much or what you're going to eat in that day, how many grams of protein, your macros, you can think about the food that you're eating. What is it? Does it have the macros that you need? Or is it something that's completely not part of what you should be doing? So that's how you can, think about what you're eating. Make sure you have the right foods in the house. Um, don't buy pistachios and buy the deshelled pistachios, because that takes very little time to eat. If you buy the ones in the one that is not cracked, that gives you time where you pull the pods and get the nuts out. That allows you time. That helps you take longer to eat the nuts, as opposed to just, putting a handful of deshelled pistachios and swallowing it. And that will be that. In terms of how you're eating, practice eating while you're sitting down. Don't eat standing like I do sometimes. I do realize that that's not the ideal thing to do. Chew slowly. One thing that I used to do when I was doing this was I'd break my fast with almonds, and typically it would be 10 almonds, and I would chew each almond until it was completely chewed and swallowed. And I would do this with 10 almonds. Well, at least that was a plan. Unfortunately, I found that sometimes I would start with the almonds, and I would eat 1, 2, 3, 4, and even 5. And after 5, sometimes I get distracted and I just go back to my old habit. So that's not the way to do it. But use almonds or nuts to practice, and see how many almonds you can get through before you get distracted. If it's 5, then don't take 10 almonds, take 5 almonds. And that way you would finish the whole almonds chewing slowly, chewing each nut slowly, and not put a handful into your mouth. Finally, the portion size. Don't use large plates. Don't use your 12-inch dinner plates. Use bowls. I use bowls to eat now because that way it looks substantial in the bowl as opposed to using a 12-inch plate, and then the food looks so small on the plate, making you feel as if it's not enough for you when it could be. I mean, and you can always go back. If you take a small plate, you can always go back for a second helping if you need to, as opposed to taking a large plate and then, you end up eating more than you can. So those are the portion sizes. And even when you treat yourself, buy fun size chocolates, for instance. Instead of buying the shareable size, buy a small bag, freeze them. That way you take care of the portion sizes of what you're eating. So if you think about it, if you think about why you're eating, if you think about what you're eating, how you're eating it, and then how much you're eating, you will see that perhaps, you don't really need to do all the dieting stuff and whatnot. So that's what I wanted to share with you today about mindful eating. One trick that I would suggest is start with a particular meal. If you want to practice, you can start with your snacks, for instance, if that's a problem, whether it's nuts or chips or whatever. But whenever it's a snack time, practice the mindful eating with your snack time. And then if you perfect in that, you can go to breakfast time. And if that works for you, lunchtime, dinner time, and before you know it, your whole eating habit or your daily consumption of food is now being eaten very mindfully. And so perhaps you don't need to do all this. Perhaps you don't need to diet. Perhaps you don't need to count calories. I think that's perfect, really. If you can do all that, I am pretty sure that you will find that you don't need to do all this. Maybe all we all need to do is to eat mindfully as opposed to being distracted when we eat. That's all I wanted to share with you today. As usual, let me know what you think. And if you have any other tricks that you use to help you eat mindfully, please share in the comment section. I really would like to know. I mean, this is the reason why I didn't include mindful eating in the things successful dieters do in order to succeed. Those are the things that I do. And so mindful eating, I haven't quite mastered it yet. So it will be hypocritical to include that. So that's it for today. Like I said, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and until we see again, you take care and keep being healthy. Goodbye.